Hi, I'm Eddie, and my project is a ball tracking robot. For my first milestone, I set up the Raspberry Pi and I built my robot car. So, first step in setting up the Raspberry Pi was to write a micro SD card with the Raspberry Pi imager on my computer. And then I had to add two extra files to the micro SD to complete the headless startup when plugged into power. So when plugged into power, I was able to connect to the Raspberry Pi through PuTTY and then display the Raspberry Pi screen through VNC Viewer. Then I started building my robot. Um, I first learned how to solder from an instructor, and then I soldered the motor wires onto the motor, and then attached the motors to the base of the car, and then started wiring everything to the Raspberry Pi. So here's the car. Ignore these two wires. Those are the two motors on the bottom, and then these are the wires that I soldered, the red and black ones here, and same on the other side. These four wires are connected to this little like blue chip. That this is called the H bridge, and then it's connected to the motors through the green screw terminals. And then these wires up here are connected directly to the Raspberry Pi that my thumb is holding. So this allows me to use code from the Raspberry Pi to move the car like forward, backwards, turn left, turn right. Yeah. And an obstacle I faced during my first milestone was completing the headless startup of the Raspberry Pi because there were some issues with the micro SD that caused me to switch to like a new micro SD card. And eventually I was able to connect to PuTTY and then display on VNC Viewer.